You burglarized about 200 homes in all?
It was 200 on paper that's documented that you can find. I don't know, honestly, you guys, if it was more. I always tried to pick a home that was not too deep in the neighborhood. The last thing I wanted was to burglarize a home and then be stuck way in the back of the neighborhood and have to come out and maybe possibly pass police officers or whomever.
Florida's Fourth Estate with hosts Ginger Gadsden and Matt Austin. The show where we bring Florida into focus. Sponsored by Light Orlando, delivering hope together.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Florida's Fourth Estate. As we close out 2024, we wanted to share some of the stories that were big hits with you guys, and we have had quite a few of them.
Florida's Fourth Estate YouTube has hit about 2 million views this year. Woo, we were hoping to hit 1 million, and it turned out we doubled it. No big deal. And yeah, calm down. Hold your applause.
Act like you've been here before.
Yes, I know. No, we haven't, and we're very excited about it. But one of the big reasons was because of a story we had of a young woman who became a cat burglar in the state of Florida. And before we send you in to this interview that got 27,000 views on YouTube, I want to read you. We're going to read a comment of someone who may have liked or disliked the interview. In this case, it's a dislike. Mm-hmm. So here it is. Let me find it for you. It's very good. And I should have had it pulled up.
I'm sure it's worth
Here
the
it
wait.
is, quote, "This woman shows characteristics of being a sociopath. I doubt that her interviewers would be smiling and acting like she's such a great person if she were ugly. I haven't seen any other examples of people glamorizing a drug addict, repeatedly breaking into homes and stealing from people.
She did her time.
Pay no attention to this woman had a baby in prison and has come out and is telling her story. Here is our interview with Jennifer Gomez." We end up hearing a lot of stories.
Here we go.
This story, though, Gigi, I don't know, we both saw it. We were captivated by it, by this fascinating human who, there's a lot of twists and turns in this story. She basically is a real life, was a real life cat burglar. And she ended up going to prison. She had a baby in prison. And now she has rehabilitated herself, and she's talking all about this wild life that she's had. And it's so unexpected. First off, welcome to Florida's Fourth Estate, Jenn Gomez. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm very excited.
Oh, man, we're
excited to talk
We're
to
excited to have you. And we're so interested in your story because, okay, so I am a father of daughters. I have 3 daughters myself. So when I see a story like yours, you read the headlines and you think, okay, she must have had some rough upbringing, or, you just kind of fill in the blanks. Your mom was a neurologist, your dad is a psychiatrist, and you ended up going down this life of crime at a young age. So can you tell me, what do you think led you to this place in the beginning?
Sure. So basically, yes, my mother is a neurologist, father's a psychiatrist. I'm the youngest of 7. I'm the youngest of 7 siblings. So all of my brothers and sisters, they're all very well to do. They all have careers. Everyone followed the traditional path in life of success and, the timeline that parents set out for us. Being the youngest, I always looked at my brothers and sisters because the closest sibling to me is 9 years older. So in essence, I was kind of an only child. There wasn't anybody but me really around in the house as I was growing up. So I always felt like, okay, you guys, your life looks really boring, going to work every day, these mundane routine things, like I'm going to go. And I didn't think of it this way, but this is the way I would describe it as an adult. But as a kid, I was like, I'm not going to go work at a job every day. I have to listen for this alarm clock, wake up at this time, work for someone else, or start a company and just, every day, day in and day out for life, live like this. I want excitement. I craved some kind of, what I thought was stimulation and just something psychologically that I could feel like, yeah, this is fun. This is exciting. And because I was young and I didn't have a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience in life, as a teenager, we all think that we know everything and our parents are outdated. So I was like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. This is fun. This is great. And in reality, it was chaotic. It was toxic. It was all the wrong things. And the more they told me not to do things, whether it was friends or family, the more I did them. So I can't ever pinpoint one specific thing, but I just think that the catalyst was in all, I wanted something exciting. And people often think, just to touch on what you said, people often think that when you come from a broken background or you're struggling and you're not afforded a lot as a kid,
Mhm.
it might lead you to do things and, in the fast lane and get things the wrong way because you want to attain these material things or this money. But there's like this reverse thing where when you have everything that you could want and you're used to it, you no longer want the shoes or the cars or whatever. You kind of just want something else. And what I wanted was some kind of, mental psychological stimulation. And for
You
me,
wanted the
it was,
thrill.
yeah, I
Yeah, you
wanted the
wanted the
thrill.
thrill.
And
Okay,
money, yeah, yep,
I feel like I can kind of analyze what happened right off the bat because you say you're the seventh out of seven, you're the youngest. I'm the
yep.
seventh out of 15, right? So what
Mm.
happens when by the time the youngest kid comes along, your parents are just tired. They're
My
tired.
mom says it all the time.
They're tired of
My mom
parenting.
says it all the time. Yep,
they've they've
yep.
done all the parenting, and especially if it was 9 years
Hmm.
in between you and the
Right.
next sibling, so you were like an only child, and
Yeah.
it's almost like you were on automatic pilot. Okay, so just to bring people up to speed, you spent almost 10 years in prison, and you're a Jacksonville girl, right? And you spent your time
Right.
in the Ocala prison. So,
Right.
right, okay. The thing I find fascinating is what sent you to jail is what you're now telling people a cautionary tale about. We call you a cat burglar, and that's kind of really what you were. You say the people put out the calling signs for you. The more signs you see of alarm, vicious dog, that was beckoning you to enter their
Mhm.
home. Tell me a little bit about how you chose some of these places because you think you burglarized about 200 homes in all?
Yeah, I don't actually know the number. I'm going solely by what the detective said and what was in my paperwork. There was, it was 200 on paper that's documented that you can find. I don't know, honestly, you guys, if it was more. And I don't say that, boastfully or, proud. I'm very remorseful and I regret everything I did. It was utterly disgusting, but it was a lot. It was a lot. And the reason why is because of what you said, a cat burglar. And the cat burglar versus a regular burglar is that their cat has an element of stealthiness that kind of makes that person invisible. And that's what would happen. These people would look at me in these neighborhoods, communicate with me, look me straight in the eyes, and never suspect anything because of the way I look. So I started wanting to tell my story because of that. I want people to know everybody that's here to hurt you or cause you harm doesn't look the way your mind thinks they look. It's there's no stereotype. Crime and drugs do not discriminate, and they can look like me and they can be there to do some bad things to your home or to you or whatever. So basically, a lot of people that are wealthy, and just for reference, I used to target the wealthy because I grew up wealthy. I had wealthy friends. I knew how the wealthy moved and operated. And there was just some core things in place that wealthy people do. And it's so backwards. It's like ass backwards because they think that by putting out these signs and by, advocating all these things that are supposed to be deterrents out in front of their house, that it's not going to draw a burglar in. But it actually did the opposite because now not only are you telling me, okay, what kind of alarm system you had, like, no shame to ADT, but I used to love when I would see ADT signs because I knew exactly how the alarms worked. I know that you can deactivate the zones. I know that if they have that ridiculous little sticker on their window, usually homeowners have in wealthier homes have the windows with some sort of glass, either in the window or on the sides. I can look right in there. I can see if the alarm is set to red or to green. I can see what zones are off. If you have that little sticker on one of the pieces, one of the panes of glass that says, in case of emergency, in case of fire, rescue my dog or cat. If I see your dog or cat walking around, or I don't see a crate, and most, wealthy people don't crate their dogs, then I know that your motion sensors aren't on because your doggy's walking around. So I can walk around. So I looked for home security signs outside. I looked for some indication that there was an animal. I looked for some sort of, wealthy people like to shrubbery, some kind of decoration outside, something that would make their home, it just looks nice. It's just aesthetically pleasing. So, shrubbery, a privacy fence, anything like that will conceal me. I'm going in your backyard, so that would conceal me, and I need it to be in place. I really liked homes that backed up to a road, not a main road, but just a two-way street where I could get out of the area quickly. I always tried to pick a home that was not too deep in the neighborhood, because the last thing I wanted was to burglarize a home and then be stuck way in the back of the neighborhood and had to come out and maybe possibly pass police officers or whomever. So I would say, homes in the front of the neighborhood are definitely the ones that are going to be targeted. I also, and this is something that in Florida and during the holiday season, a lot of people leave their curtains or their blinds open. And I'm like, geez, it's like a blueprint. All of these things are like a blueprint for your home. And you're telling me what I need. Now I know you have an animal. Now I know no one's home. I'm going to bring something for the animal. I used to always carry a little snack, something, to give a dog.
Oh, so the animals didn't keep you, that didn't scare you.
No, well, let me tell you, there was only one time when I stepped through the little threshold of the window that I had broken. And when I stepped through, I didn't know there was an animal in there. I don't know how I missed it, but I didn't know. And when I stepped through, I saw some sort of mixed breed, very large dog looking at me, and it was growling, very low growl, like, "Arr." But I saw a little bit of teeth right here, and I was like, oh crap, I'm like in for it. So all I did was, and I think the dog was on the verge, like he was really on the verge of deciding I'm about to get her or I'm not. And I was just like, hey, come on, baby, let's go get a cookie. You want to get a cookie? You want to get a bone? And I just said all the words that I think owners would say to indicate a treat. And he followed me right to the kitchen. And I got him a rotisserie chicken out of the refrigerator. I put it on the ground and I went about my business.
See, that's okay. Listening to your story, those are the kind of things I think you did that a lot of people didn't do. I heard you telling the story in one of the podcasts that you've done where you're literally dragging a safe out of someone's front door. She's dragging the safe with a sheet out of someone's and trying to stick it in her car. And a neighbor comes along and she's like, oh, hey, I'm just pulling this safe out of my parents' house. I'm home from college. Like you knew to use the fact that you look different than a normal burglar, right? And I think, man, that is just one of those things. I'm trying to put myself in that position as the neighbor. And if I don't know what their kids look like, I'm going to be like helping you stick this safe in the stinking car.
Oh like, my God. Okay. I'm glad you brought that. That silver Chevy Impala that you just Chevy backed Impala. Up. Yeah. So you were able to get away with it because you just were like, I'm innocent. Help me. I'm a college kid and the safe is heavy.
Right. It was the fact that I was so out in the open, so just blatant with it. I think about what that neighbor was looking at when I went, quite literally, I pulled this car up through the grass, through the sidewalk, to the front door. I mean, car just all sideways. Back doors both open, trunk open, alarm going off in the background. And then you see a girl that you've never seen pulling a safe out on a sheet. The whole situation had to have looked so ridiculous. And it was moments like that that I realized, oh my gosh, my appearance is going to help me get away with this. And I'm not naive to the fact that, okay, if I would have looked different, if I would have been a different gender, a different color, all these things, this would not have worked. But that was the whole point in really starting to tell this story is, everything is not the way you guys stereotypically think it is. And the guy just looked at me and in my mind, I'm like, how do you not know? Maybe you're not besties with your neighbor, but like, how do you not know that they don't have a college age kid? That is just so weird to me. So that's why I always tell people in my videos, like, wave to your neighbors, at least say hi every now, like something, because, people are nosy. But if they think that you're not there for anything that's bad, if they're just like, oh, yep, she's a college student because she said she was, no, I've never seen her, then they're not going to help you. They're not, they're going to offer to help you. Yeah, they're going to help you get the safe out the house and in the car. They're not going to help you call the police.
I'm feeling very convicted. I feel like I would fall for all of this, Ginger.
No, there is no way. Okay, so because if I were dragging a safe out of someone's home in a neighborhood, guess who's getting arrested? This girl. I'm just telling you, I don't think I could look. There would be a huge difference, and those are just facts. Yeah. So is that the case where you left your probation paperwork in the house, and that's the one that actually got you arrested? And
I didn't hear this.
Yeah,
you went back.
Actually, No, actually, Ginger, it was not.
Okay.
The house where I left probation, I had been sentenced. I was arrested 3 different times, and I won't go through every detail, but this was the second arrest. I had been arrested the first time for an entirely different situation, and I had been put on probation. The day I was leaving the probation office, I went to burglarize a home, and I was first. I don't know how it even happened to this day because there are provisions I put in place to hear if a homeowner comes home. I'll put things on the floor to hear him step on it. I'll lock certain doors so I can hear the door jiggling, things like that. And I didn't hear anything. And all of a sudden I'm in this bedroom where I have my purse, my little, bag I put everything that I steal in. And I had taken out the probation papers because they were big, they were bulky, they were in the way. I had put them on a dresser. In the midst of stealing things, and before I knew it, I hear a voice behind me say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I turn around and there's a huge linebacker sized man in the door frame. And so anyways, I just started saying to him, I'm a juvenile, don't touch me. And I was trying, and I don't even know where that came from. Like, it literally just came. And I was like, usually I think of things beforehand, but I hadn't thought of that because I didn't think anyone was ever going to walk in on me. But my whole idea was like, let me scare this guy, because no man, grown man wants to be accused of a teenage girl being in their house and then you attacked them and whatever. Like, so I was trying to scare him off, and I did. And I got out of the house. I backed up all the way to the window, and then I jumped out, got back to my car, and I don't know, I'm a mile or so down the street. I look over my purse and I'm like, oh crap, the probation papers that have my name, my address, my birthday, my whole life. So I knew at that point, okay, I have a 50-50 chance. If 50-50 I go back and I get caught, maybe I get out and I'm free. But 100% if I don't go back, I'm caught. So I'm going to take the 50-50 and I'm going to go back. And I actually went back. I got in the window. The man was outside in his driveway talking to the police. I got in the window. I got my papers. I got out. However, and I don't know because I never saw the man again, but I did end up getting tackled by his neighbor, and they held me on both arms until the police got there. That arrest was the second arrest. That arrest, they also gave me a chance and gave me probation. The problem was that I reoffended again. So I was given probation twice, and I was given rehab twice. The third and final arrest that actually sent me to prison while I was pregnant with my first and only child was because a man told on me. A man that I was doing business with told on me for a few things, and they raided my house and found one piece of jewelry, a necklace.
Wow. Okay. Man, every stage of this story is just fascinating. I've had this
in 30 minutes.
No, there's no way. We need 3 hours. We need 3 hours with you. But I just always picture myself in these situations. If I have dreamt of finding a burglar in my house, but a male burglar, like you dream of. I've never, like, guys have that thought all the time. Like, if somebody broke into my house, I'm just going to get to finally fight like I've always wanted to. But then you find like a pretty 20-year-old girl in your, it's like, and then you're like, hey, I'm a juvenile. Don't touch me. You'll be arrested. Oh, man.
Oh, and let me just tell you, even when I've been face to face with a couple homeowners, but even like that guy and the other ones, I could see it in their eyes and their face and in their demeanor. They had no idea what I was doing in there. It almost looked like they thought, does she have a mental illness? Like, is she on drugs or something? It never crossed their mind. Holy moly, this girl's in here burglarizing my home. That was not their thought ever. I could see it in their face. I mean, I obviously don't know that for a fact, but I could see it in their face. They were just really taken aback. But not in a bad way. They just
because to see you in someone's home is unexpected, right? And so they are trying to figure it out and put the puzzle pieces together, and it's just not fitting in any way. Were you ever afraid that, because your crimes happened in Florida, where we, stand
everybody's
your ground.
got guns.
That's all I'm saying. And everybody's got a gun. Were you ever afraid you were going to get shot?
No, I'm just being honest. No, because I always relied on the fact that I didn't think, and this is really stupid, right? But I didn't think that any person that was a decent, good human being in their right mind was going to shoot an unarmed 20-something-year-old girl standing in their house with no weapons. Like, it just didn't seem like something anybody would really go out of their way to do. And also, the adrenaline just kicking in. It's like, No, I just didn't. I didn't think it would happen. It was just one of those things where I was like, it's not going to happen. So, that's just that. It's not.
Yeah. You have to give me something else here, because I feel like there's another layer to getting you in. I think there was a guy involved here, and there was some drug use involved. So I've heard just little kind of details of this story. So can you tell me, like, what kind of drugs were involved with this, and what kind of sleazy guy was involved in this situation as well?
For sure. So when I was 17, I actually met a Russian guy, and he fit that criteria that I told you guys I was looking for, that, exciting, mysterious lifestyle. Okay, I want to get to know him. And he ended up being connected to the Russian mob. And when I say Russian mob, Russian mafia, like, even that type of lifestyle isn't what we see on TV nowadays. It's just organized crime. But him and his family were into some pretty hefty things. I did not know everything in the beginning, but I fell in love with him. I thought he was just so mysterious and attractive and powerful. And I started dating him. I did not know, like I said, everything that he was into until, time went on. As time went on, he started dropping little nuggets of truth. And I started seeing, okay, he deals in drugs. Okay, he deals in crime. Okay, all the businesses that he has. He had a mortgage company. He had a car auto shop. He had an after hours bar. All of these things are really not what's making him all his money. I think they might be fronts for other things, but he's telling me over years. So as I'm learning all of the truths about his, criminal life, I'm kind of just digesting it, and to be honest, like, I'm finding some of it sexy and appealing, and other things I'm like, oh my gosh, that's scary, but I don't have anything to do with it firsthand. I'm not the one doing it. So that's you over there. In the midst of all this, I had actually tried at his after hours bar. I had tried cocaine one night, and it was not my drug. I didn't like it. I felt terrible. I felt very on edge, very skittish and anxious. So from there, I started doing opiates. I tried heroin that night, and I did do heroin for a little while, but I eventually never did heroin again, but I substituted the heroin with pain pills. And this was during the pill mill era. So I started doing Roxys and Oxys, and I just took off from there. I went crazy. The Russian fled the country. I was now addicted to drugs and had a taste of the fast life. And basically, to make a long story short, what ended up happening was I needed to get money for not only my addiction, but also I just had, I had nice things. My lifestyle from a child to dating him was one of nice luxury material things. So I needed money, but the muscle was gone. He fled the country to get rid of he had charges, federal charges and state. So when he fled the country, I'm like, I can't do the same crimes he was doing because I don't have the muscle. These people are going to kill me. He was robbing criminals, drug dealers. And so what I thought was, okay, let me tweak this burglary system a little bit and rob the people that I know how to deal with, which is the wealthy. And that's why I started doing that. That's why I started targeting them. That's why I started, doing the things I was doing in the way I was doing them, because I was by myself. He had gone, but I still needed to make fast money because now I had this opiate pain pill addiction.
Yeah. And you're able to talk freely about him now because he's dead, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because I feel like that's another layer of danger if you would put yourself in if you were speaking freely about him and he's still walking around. The thing that tells me that you are a good person who just got caught up in something that was ridiculous is this, going back to the safe story and listening to you tell that story. You got the safe in your car and you swore it was going to be $1 million in it, right? And there wasn't, but there was a lot of family paperwork in there. You actually later returned all that paperwork because there were birth certificates, passports, things that are such a pain to replace. When I heard that, I was like, I like her.
I had a guy that dealt with safes and he opened it, he left, and then I looked in it and I kept digging because even if I'm at the bottom of the safe, there's only the walls and the floor. I'm digging, I'm looking, I'm like trying to lift up the bottom. Maybe it's a false bottom, but no, it was just like marriage certificates, social security cards, birth certificates, passports, deeds to homes, and I was like, damn, man, this is these people's entire life on paper. And I know like hell it's going to be a pain in the butt to replace all this stuff, because I've heard my mom talk about these things. I've heard my mom has papers in her safe that are my birth certificate and things like that. So I've seen that growing up, and I was like, ugh. And I was really scared. I was like, I don't want to go back. I'm just not going to go back. But that thing kept eating at me. I'm like, I cannot throw these papers, because essentially I would have just had to throw the papers away in the trash. And I didn't want to do that either. So I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I just put him in I put gloves on. I put him in a manila envelope, waited a couple of days, and it was like 3 days. And I remembered the house because it was in a very long driveway. It was like a plantation style home. And I went back there. I drove around till I saw it. Put it in the mailbox, took off. I always drove with fake license plates when I went to do things. So I just put one of those on, returned the stuff, and left. And, yeah.
Oh, well, okay. So that is nice. And that does show that even back then, when you were young and trying to think of a good word, young and just kind of doing whatever you wanted to do at that time, you still had that thought of doing something for somebody else. Was there ever something you stole? Maybe you got home, or maybe in those 200 burglaries that you got and you just felt like crap about it? You know, like, was there ever a moment where you did take something and then you were like, I can't believe I actually did this to somebody?
To be honest, no, not at the time, right? Because a lot of like heirlooms and things of that nature, in my mind, from my mom and all of her wealthy, upper class, well-to-do, affluent friends, the things that were really important and heirloom type of things, or just anything that was important, even if it was an heirloom, were always like in the bank in a deposit box. So I never thought that people really kept that in their home. And I never saw anything that I came across that was like in a box that looked like it was, commemorating a deceased family member or anything like that. But I will tell you guys this. What ended up happening was about 3 weeks ago or so, somebody did a story time on TikTok where they said, story time on Jenn Gomez robbed my parents' house when I was a kid. And she said, I stole like $100,000 from their home. And she said that there were things in there that were passed down from when she was a baby. And she named several things. And I will tell y'all, I felt like the biggest piece of dog mess on the bottom of a dump truck wheel. So I was like, and I never expected this. I never expected my real life to cross over from social media into finding someone that I had victimized. I did not ever think that part was going to happen. So I was like, and it bothered me. It bothered me bad. So I reached out to her and I said, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect your mom, dad, your family to forgive me, but I cannot sit with the fact that I saw this video and then I just going to keep going about my life. So I just want to say, I'm sorry. It was awful. I feel terrible. I felt terrible. And she wrote me back and she was like, my mom gets your restitution, your restitution. Good Lord. My mom and my dad get the restitution check from you every month. Mm-hmm. They have forgiven you. Of course, they don't like what you did, but they see what you're doing now and we've all forgiven you. And thank you for reaching out. And I was like, wow. The biggest weight lifted. Like, they didn't have to do that, but So that's
a little closure.
I never saw anything in the moment, but
that's nice that you get to have that interaction. And now I'm sure that there was a lot of pain probably caused, when somebody breaks into your house, it's just this total vulnerable victim feeling, like it's just awful. Somebody's been through my stuff. I'm sure that there was a lot of that pain caused when you were younger, but I'm trying to think of who was hurt the most, which would have to be your parents. Like, I can't imagine your parents raised you. They had all these kids. They worked all this way. And then at some point, all of this had to come crumbling down and they had to find out what you had been up to and what you were doing. What was that experience like when you had to come to terms with your parents of this life that you were living?
That was incredibly hard. My mom is an awesome individual. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. My dad cut me off after I was arrested. So that was kind of like a done deal. He didn't speak to me the entire time I was in prison. My parents got divorced when I was 15 and I was always closer with my mom, but my dad remarried. His wife didn't really want anything to do with me. She didn't want me around. I mean, and with good reason, like I understand, but, so he was out the picture. My mom for a while, she was like, okay, it has to be the Russian guy. It has to be the influence, you know? But then she said that she just came to a point when she was like, damn, it's not him. He's fled the country and she's still doing these things. Like, it's not his influence. Something is up with my kid. And she said that realization brought her to the moment of, what did I do wrong as a parent? You know, how could I have done better? And that was heartbreaking because my mom couldn't have done anything better. I'm about to cry. My mom couldn't have done anything better. She did everything the best for all of us. And everything I did was me. Like, it was all me. I don't know if I had like a chemical imbalance. I don't know. That's kind of what I feel like was going on. But my mom did everything great in my eyes. And so, that was a very hard thing for me to hear and for her to digest. My mom went through it. She lost weight. You know, it was bad. It was very bad. She said it was very, very hard for a lot of years.
I bet. Man,
I can only imagine.
That dad thing bugs me, I've got to say. Gigi, I've got 3 daughters, and I have had this talk with my daughter so many times. And Ginger knows this. This is a regular talk in my house.
Is this, I will help you bury a body?
I say, if you are honest with me, and whatever you do, I will help you. You have to tell me the truth. And if you tell me the truth,
Right.
we will bury the body together, or I'll just do it for you. I don't care. And that's the way a dad should be.
True story.
A dad should
True
be
story.
ride or die. So that really pisses me
Yeah.
off that your dad, cut you off, even though granted, like, you were doing some crazy stuff,
Right,
but
right.
I mean, I don't know. That bugs me a lot.
But I feel like it's the
the wife.
right?
I think it was the wife's influence a lot. Like, that's what it looked like to me, because until she came along, he was still active for the most part. When she came along, it was like, nope, cut off.
Like she blocked you and your dad didn't even know.
She didn't even know. I was supposed to go meet him at Starbucks, and I'm calling and calling and calling to let him know, like, I'm on the way. So I call from my son's cell phone. He's like, hey. And he's like, I didn't know if I was blocked or not, because I can't really ever tell. Like, when I'm calling,
Right.
it just goes through, it just rings. So I called from my son's phone, and he's like, oh, I'm not going because you never confirmed with me. I'm like, I did. I emailed you. And he's like, well, I never saw anything. And I'm like, Dad, your wife blocked me. She literally blocked my number. And I was like, well, I can wait a couple hours. Like, it's just Starbucks. And he's like, no. And I was like, well, I can come over and just like say, hey, and give you a hug. I don't want anything from you. I swear. I think she's after his money, to be fair. But so anyways, he was like, no, we'll just do it another day. And now it's been like 2.5 years and I haven't heard a word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, don't give up on that. I hope you don't give up on that.
Yeah.
Even though it's a tough situation.
Yeah. It's just so we haven't even, as much as we've talked to you and we've been going for almost a half an hour now, we aren't even at the tip of the iceberg of your entire
At all.
story, which is a cautionary tale for so many people. You got out of prison February 14th, 2020, and
Right.
you have seemed to been on this tear to let people know that this is what I've done. It's almost like a confession tour, but you're
Yeah.
helping so many people, I think, and I believe you're giving us a clue as to red flags to look out for. The red flag that I love that you're warning people about are what's known as sugar daddies, but they want to be called pen pals who befriend these women in prison, and it's a scheme that goes on and on. Not that we should feel sorry for them, but can you talk a little bit about that, because I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I always was very much against this when I was inside the prison. I just felt like if it was my son, my dad, my brother, like, how effed up. And so what happens is these girls, these guys will be perusing these pen pal prison websites, and they'll find a girl, and they might write her. But so the women will receive letters, just multiple letters a day, days on end, and they'll write all the men back, and they'll start trying to bait them, see what they can get from them. Just, temperature gauge, put feelers out there, basically. And once they find one, they will milk him for everything he's got. They usually follow a pretty decent system. They might even pay somebody to write sex letters for them or to write the romantic letters for them. You'll have people tag teaming. One will do the phone calls, one will do the letters, things like that. Basically, the concept is that you just lie to this guy to get whatever you can in the most because it takes a little while. There's a grooming process for the man. So he's being groomed, even if he doesn't know it. And so after, some months, the money will start to roll in. And then after the money starts to roll in, she will drain him, whether it's her alone or her and her friends, she will drain him for everything he's got. I mean, I've seen 401ks, retirement, pensions. I've seen men get drained for everything and some. Then what will happen is when the girl's going to leave, when she's going to EOS, which means end of sentence, when she's going to EOS from the prison and go home, she will end up selling him to another female prisoner who has time to do. So she will sell him for $100, $200, whatever he's worth based on how much he dishes out and how much he might have left. At that point, he will get sold by way of this storyline that will come about where he will get introduced to the friend as the friend of your girlfriend and future wife. And then they will, the introduction will be made, and then his phone number will be given to the friend so the friend can contact the both of you when the girlfriend gets out. Right. So the girlfriend's going to get out. She's going to marry this guy. And now the friend inside of the prison is able to call them and say, hey, friend, how are you doing? Hey, how are you and your new hubby, and all that. So what'll happen is when the initial girl, when she leaves the prison, she'll never talk to this pen pal sugar daddy again, ever. And then the friend that's still inside, she's going to use that phone number. She's going to call and she's going to say, hey, Steve, how's so-and-so? And of course, Steve's going to be devastated, heartbroken, and now, out of how many hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's going to say, well, she disappeared and she's nowhere to be found and I don't know where she is. And now the new girl that bought him is going to console him, going to be the listening ear. And now she's going to fall into the role. And then before you know it, she's going to be telling him, well, thank God that she did this to you because we found each other. It was always the bigger plan for us to find each other. She's going to milk you and then you're going to get sold again. Till you have no money.
There's like this whole economy of, it's like you're buying and selling stocks, but it's a human being.
But it's a dude.
Wow.
And eventually when he has nothing left, then he'll just get discarded and nobody will ever talk to him again.
Wow.
That is crazy.
Ginger, let me tell you this. I started talking about that and I received so many threatening DMs and emails from girls that I'd been in prison with saying, take that down. You're messing it up for everybody.
Yeah.
Take that down. One girl went on an entire smear campaign where she was like, oh, well, we're going to talk about her. This is what she did. She has these charges, like as if I wasn't going to talk about my own story, but I hadn't yet. I only started talking about my story this past November. So she went on this whole smear campaign to tell my story as if it was going to offend me. Like, ma'am, it's public record. But anyways, and I left it all up because I was like, no, this is wrong. Like I'm sure some people know that this is what happens, but they don't know all the intricate details. So I'm going to tell them because it's messed up.
That's amazing to me. That they have this whole business structure built in to that they can do that behind prison walls. That is unreal to me. I have learned so much talking to you. You are a fascinating human being. And I feel like there's a lot that people have left to learn about you. How can people, if they haven't gotten the full breadth of your story, which I know that you're just getting a tiny little sliver here, how can they hear more of your story? What's the best way to find out?
So basically my YouTube channel and my TikTok, they're both Jenn Gomez, just Jenn Gomez. My YouTube is where I have the more lengthy stories and I talk about things a little more in detail, but my TikTok I utilize a lot as well. And my stories are longer than a minute or two. They're long as well. So let me just say that my TikTok is Jenn Gomez, and then it's a 2.0 at the end. So it's Jenn Gomez 2.0. And then my YouTube is just Jenn Gomez. I will keep up to date with what I have going on as far as a book and as far as any shows and as far as any movies on those two platforms. So anything that's going to come about will be there.
Jenn Gomez.
I'm calling it now. Anne Hathaway's going to play you in the movie.
Oh my God. I didn't see that. I don't think she's like, people say she's not the nicest in person, but she's a good actress. So
I was thinking Catherine Zeta-Jones. You know, she already did that thing in The Rock where she was a burglar.
Yeah, she did.
I could see it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're fascinating. Jenn Gomez, also known as Jenn Gomez. Thank you so much for taking us down this crazy road that is your life. I'm glad things are going much better for you now. And we're excited to see what you do in the future.
And thank you for returning that family's paperwork.
I love that you're so. I love that you're so touched by that, and it like makes me feel good that it even happened, because you really like, you look like you're almost in tears about it, and I love that you're
Oh,
so
like
happy. Like, I
have
just
you ever
that's
lost a driver's license or had to get a birth
yes.
certificate for it's a pain. It is
Sucks.
a
I
pain.
lost my
So, oh,
entire wallet a couple months ago, but honestly, Ginger, it was my mom. It was seeing my mom and having heard her say things growing up that prompted that, because I remember the distress in her voice and her life and her
yeah,
everything when she, she's lost
yeah,
things.
yeah.
So yeah, that was all her, but yeah. So, all right, yeah. And if
Yeah.
anybody
Awesome.
wants to know any tips on how to protect your home, I have some videos on that too, because what these
Yes.
security companies sell you for thousands of dollars is there's things you can do for free in your home that will tweak your system and help you out. So, yeah.
I like that.
Wow.
That's great. That's maybe the best thing people can learn from your
Yeah.
story. So,
Yeah.
Jen Gomez,
For sure.
thank you so much.
Yep.
You're
Jen, thank
awesome.
you.
Thanks, guys.